Hi guys, this is part 3 of the video. In this part we'll actually assemble the carbs, get them on the vehicle and hopefully get it started. Alright, so we have to get the needle and seat with a new little filter inside there. I've already selected the correct washer for it. That's the correct washer. It's a bit tricky to get that in there. So what I do is I just take a little dab of grease. Put a little bit of grease on there. It'll dissolve immediately when there's a bit of petrol on it, so don't worry about it. Get that on there, and then hopefully we don't shake too much. And get it in there. Okay, there we go. I'll turn it this way just to make sure the little filter stays on top of it. And then once it's in, 10 spanner, tighten it up nice and tight. And now we have to get those bits in for the float lever. Get that lined up. There we go. As easy as that. To get the float level correct, the book says between 10 and 12 millimeters from the surface. So I just measure it like that. That's 12.9. Has to go down a little bit. Not too much. That's 12. My previous one was 11.71 millimeters. I think that's close enough. 11.83. So this one is all done, set and ready for assembly. I've done the other one already, so the two of them are good to go. Next thing we have to do is to install the new needles, and I'll try and do this and show you guys on the camera. But you have to slide that in until that little ridge is lined up with a flat surface of the slide, and then you just tighten the screw and give it a bit of a nip, not too hard because it's brass, it'll strip like that. And then that's nearly ready to go. Something else that you have to do before you assemble this, I don't know how I'm going to show you guys this. That little surface there, that bit there has to be surface. So when you turn the screw, when you turn that screw, that goes down. That's how you set the height of the needle. There we go. There you can see. So you've got to get that surface straight. Get that straight, level with the top. I'm trying to hold this so you can see. You can also feel it. And then what you do, you turn it 2.5 turns out. That's going to be our starting point. So that's half, 1, 1.5, 2, and 2.5 turns out. That's going to be our starting point. From there we'll balance and adjust the fuel and all of that, but that's going to be your starting point. And now the slides can go in. So get them in, get the cup over, tie them up, and then that's done. Alright, so I've assembled this one. It's nearly good to go. Everything is in place. Slide is free and it goes back. And it's really simple to do. You just get that in place, make sure your needle goes in the hole at the bottom, make sure you don't bend it. Next thing, you've got to put your spring on, and then this goes on, and it only goes on one way. There we go, and then you tighten the screws and make sure it's free. Simple as that. So the next thing we've got to do is to put these little petrol pipes on that run from there to there. I would advise you to get fairly soft hose. This is actually vacuum hose, and it can work with original clamps. If you use thick hose, then it could stop this from operating how it should. I've done this one already. Nice soft hose, it's in place. So I'll do that one, and then next thing I've got to do is just put the floats in. Alright, time to put the floats in, excuse me. I managed to find new floats, or newer floats. They're from a later model, they're not brass, they're plastic. I believe they're good. I don't know, I'll try them. But to install it, it's pretty simple. This way up, you just chuck it in there. Put your little gasket on. This is a cork gasket, by the way. And then when you put this on, make sure this points towards the inlet manifold side, not the air filter side. Sorry for that. Because that's where the petrol line is going to come from. And then you put it on, and put in your little screws, and that's done. Not much to it. And you do all four of them. Alright guys, in a previous video I said you need 6 gaskets, you actually need 8. I'll mark them out, cut them out with the scissors, then I just punch the holes with my hole punch. And then what's quite important to do is to put them on there, and then just take a pocket knife and just trim them so that they're exactly the size of the hole. That way you can have none of the gasket restricting your flow. And it looks like not a bad gasket at the end of the day when you make them like that. So I've made all 8 of mine. And yeah, we can start assembling. Like we said in the video before, this all has to go, carb, inlet manifold. So I'll start removing that. I'm going to keep all of this, so if ever I want to make it and put it back to original, I can do that. I'm not going to throw it away or sell it, so I'll keep it. It's the original Nissan stuff that came with it, so I'll take that off quickly. Next thing that has to happen, I've got to take the inlet manifold off, undo the petrol pipe, undo the cable for the choke cable, throttle cable, and those hoses. Then the little manifold is off, so I'll do that quickly. So okay guys, on the original manifold there's a little hot box over there that runs on these radiator lines. The one comes here from the return of the radiator to the engine, and the other one comes from the back here that goes to the heater inside. It comes from the back of the cylinder. So they'll have to be blocked off because the SU manifold doesn't have that. So what I did, I took 2 normal stainless steel bolts and I just cut the head off on the lathe. It doesn't look like a bolt, and I'll block that one off about there, and I'll block the other one off about there, and then that should do it. That'll be the water sorted. We've got to replace the inlet exhaust manifold gasket. To do that, we need to unfortunately take off the exhaust manifold as well, so we'll do that quickly.
There we go. Now we can get the gasket out. I'll have to now clean up that surface all over and then put on the new gasket and put the exhaust back. So okay, I've got all of that cleaned up nicely. Now it's time to put on the new gasket, and I'm going to use a Loctite gasket shellac sealer to do that. And then I'll just bolt the exhaust manifold back on. Right, next moment of truth, we're going to put the little manifold on. I already have gasket sealer over there, so no need to put it over there. Let's hope it fits. I'm going to have to file a little bit over there.
There we go. I had to take a little bit away there with a round file
because it was hooking on that part of the exhaust manifold. But now it's a perfect fit and I can tie it 100%. Right, the little manifold is on. I changed this stud for a shorter one. I was afraid that it was going to interfere here, so maybe you must do that as well. And something that's quite important, get that and that bolt in before you actually bolt the little manifold on, because once it's on, there's not enough space there to do it. Another thing, I put this manifold on and then put the carbs on later, otherwise you're going to struggle to get to the, you can imagine with a heat shield and the carbs, you're going to struggle to get to those 3-4 bolts to tie them. So that's why I've done it this way around. But now we can actually put the carbs on. Right, 2 gaskets with gasket sealer, and there goes the heat shield. Goes that way around for the, just rub some of the gasket sealer off. For the springs, because that's the return springs for the carbs. Yeah, so far so good. 2 more and then the Bakelite pieces.
One of those preset things we have to do before we put the carbs on is to try and get the idling mechanically set before we do anything. Now I hope you guys can see the inside of the butterfly there. So what I'm doing, turning the idling screw back and forth until I can see it just there. I can see it just opening. I don't know if you can see it, but you must look inside there. You probably can't. And then just as that little screw starts to open that butterfly, I'll give it a half a turn from there. So now it's open a little bit, and I'll do the same with the other carbie. And then one other thing that I do, that I like to do, I'd like to, inside there, just put a little bit of grease on both of them. That lubricates that little ball when the carbs are on. So next thing, carbs on the vehicle. Right, you guys, what I've done, because it's not the easiest things to get these carbs on there with a link in place. I've put the link in, and I've put the return springs on, because I don't want to struggle to get them on when the carbs are on. And then I'll take it together like this and go stick it on the manifold. So I'll see you guys there in a sec. So okay guys, yesterday when I took the carbs from the bench to come put it on the manifold, my battery ran flat, so I didn't record it and I wasn't going to do it again. But a few things to look out for. You see over there, there's not a lot of gap there, so when you put the carbs on, put all the nuts on before you actually start tightening it. If you do, you won't get these. If you yeah, you won't get these nuts on. Something else to look out for. I've now put my accelerator link on. It fits perfect, but see there, it doesn't let go all the way. So I'll have to bend this a little bit, which is fine. I'll do that so that there's a little bit of slack on the cable, because it will affect the idling if it doesn't go back all the way. Then I've decided to put a T in there so that I can have one pipe going straight for that carby and one coming here. And I've made this fitting out of a stainless steel bolt, drilled it right through 4 mil, then drilled those in 7 mil so the pipes can slide in, and I did the same over there, so that'll form a T so that I can put the T in there. Then I'll move this bracket to the next bolt, and I think that should look fine. So I'm going to do that quickly. So okay guys, I made up the pipe. There it is. I think it looks okay. All connected. I've also connected it to the carburetors on both sides, from there over to there, so that's done. Next thing to do is to connect the vacuum pipe hose. It goes through here, and then at the back, I don't know if you can see, maybe try from this side. No, you can't see. It connects to there where my thumb is. So I must connect that. And then the next thing, I've got to make up, or I have made up, a little fitting for the brake booster. So the size of the holes, I should have looked at this before, are different. Purely because I think this manifold didn't come with a brake booster. Well, the manifold this car came from didn't come with a brake booster. So I've got to connect that to that pipe, and I made up this little fitting. So I'll screw that in, do the vacuum advance pipe, and then we'll see what we need to do next. Okay guys, I've put that vacuum, the pipe for the booster on the vacuum over there. That works. I've connected my rubber hoses for the fuel. I've actually turned the ignition on to check that I don't have any leakages, and I don't. And I've opened up each one of them to make sure that I actually have petrol in the float bowl, which I do. Next thing to do is to put a bit of oil into it. Yeah, they usually have a little mark. I can't really see that one. There we go. See, there's a little mark over there, and there's a little mark there. That's the low mark, and that's the high mark. So we'll have to put oil in until it's by the high mark. And I usually use, or we've always used 3-in-1 machine oil. It works fine. It's a little thinner than what the factory spec is. I think the factory spec is something like 20W or something like that. And when you put it in, make sure you put it in the center, otherwise it's going to run over the piston, and it's going to end up between the piston and the cup, and that's not good. It'll work out eventually, but try to get it inside. So I'll do that quickly. Alright guys, let's wrap this all up. Start from the beginning. When you get a set of carbs, when you consider this conversion and you get a set of carbs, it's important to clean them properly. Fit new carb kits, adjust your float levels, get that sorted out, replace those little hoses at the bottom. That's quite important. You've got to remember to adjust the jet heights on those two, get them level inside, 2.5 turns out on each one. That's just a pre-adjustment. Also do a pre-adjustment on your idling with the butterflies, so it's a good point to start. You're not going to struggle when you fire it up. We'll fire it up in a minute. Ensure that your pistons are free, that they're not stuck and they're not cut off like mine was on the first set of carbs that I had. Once you've mounted them with the new gaskets and everything, put your oil in, get that all sorted out. Connect your vacuum advance hose. It's quite important, otherwise it's not going to advance and it's going to misfire.
you have to make a T for your fuel. I chose to use my old fuel line that was there, but you can put a T wherever, it doesn't matter. But I prefer it that way. I think it looks quite neat. You've got to obviously sort out your chokes. I still have to do that. I've had my choke cable repaired. It's quite a nice job, but I still have to put it on and put it inside the car. You've got to obviously make that fitting for the brake booster, because the manifold where this came off that car didn't have a brake booster, so my little pickup's got one, so I've had to make that fitting. And then remember, on the old manifold it's got that little heater box for suppose for winter conditions, where the issue manifold doesn't have that, so you've got to sort out your radiator hoses and obviously afterwards fill up your car. Fill up the radiator with fluid. So we are in a position to start. I'm going to fire it up quickly. Let's see what it does. So not too bad at all. I've noticed, I heard that was sucking a bit of air, this fitting. I noticed that fitting was sucking a bit of air. So I'll unscrew it and just block it up. I was going to put my breather over there, but that's not going to happen. So I'll block it up and I'll just put a little filter there just to look nice on my breather. And then lastly, you've got a breather hose from the block that's got to be connected as well. All I'm going to do is going to cut it and turn it around, because at the back of the air filter there's a special fitting for that. So yeah, that concludes the setting up, pre-setting up and everything. Once the little air filter is on, I'll just make another little clip, start it up and see what it sounds like. Guys, just something to remember when you are ready to put your air filter on, the backing for the air filter. Make sure you've got this gasket the right way around, because if you've got it the wrong way around, you're going to obviously block that hole and the car won't work, because that's where the air goes in that sucks up the piston. So make sure you've got it the right way around. And that's all ready to go on. Alright. I've plugged off that hole there, and I've put the carburetor air filter backing on. Next is to put the air filter on and then close it up. And if you didn't know any better, you would have thought that came from the factory like that. I think it looks lovely. Alright you guys, that concludes the video. All the steps to take a standard 1400 pickup like this one and put a set of issues on it on the standard cylinder head. This is a stock standard engine, there's nothing been done to it. And I bet it will run better than with a stock carburetor. I'm not going to do a video on balancing. There's many out there on YouTube on how to balance them. Yes, all it needs now is to take it for a run. So see you guys later.